Welcome back, Conscious Recovery. I'm Matthew, and this is a follow-up video to the overview on addiction and trauma, the 5 primary ways that trauma changes the body, changes the mind, and how that might be fueling your addiction. If we understand how trauma affects us, we can better deal with it, and that can help you bolster your recovery and have a stronger recovery from addiction. That's how it worked with me anyways. So the first one I want to talk about, and these are in no particular order. In fact, the 5 ways that trauma affects the body and mind, they're all very much intertwined. They affect each other in different ways. They interact in different ways, but we got to start somewhere. So let's start with the autonomic nervous system, the body, all right? The autonomic nervous system goes back to previous videos on system 1, everything automatic that's happening with you that you don't decide. That is the autonomic nervous system. You don't have to think about having a heartbeat. You don't have to decide to breathe when you're asleep. All these things, digestion, hormone function, nervous system, it all happens automatically. The problem with trauma is that it dysregulates this system. And to better explain that, I think I need to explain what a baseline is. So every single person that you've ever met, their bodies are always trying to achieve like a nice, smooth baseline. And, throughout the day we encounter stress, so you might see a little bit of stress or fear or anger, or you might have, a hard day and you feel a little bit of depression. But for the most part, the baseline is nice and smooth and right in the middle, right? Not too elevated, not too depressed, just right in the middle. The problem with addiction is that it alters this baseline rate, all right? And it can go one of 2 ways, but for most people, say take anxiety, for example, most people, instead of a calm baseline and then stress is up here, they kind of live elevated already. Instead of a nice smooth baseline in the middle, their baseline is already pretty close to that threshold of anxiety. And so there's not a whole lot of stress that they can deal with without being pushed over the edge into that anger, fear, anxiety response, things like that. So dysregulated nervous system means that it takes a lot less for us to get pushed over the edge and experience mental distress, depression, anxiety, things like that. Our strategy comes in when we try to think about what can I do to change my baseline? Can I bring my baseline from up here, like on edge, right by the edge of fight or flight, all the way down to a nice, smooth, calm, relaxed state? And how do I achieve that smooth, calm, relaxed state as often as possible for the majority of the day? And the first and best solution that you're always going to have is breathing. All right. Now, breathing is autonomic, so we don't have to think about breathing. We don't have to choose to breathe, but we can exert conscious control over the way we breathe. We can also learn to recognize when our breathing is out of sync, and we can use breathing exercises to bring ourselves back down to a better baseline. And it works. It works absolutely. So if you're a person that's dealing with high stress, high anxiety, then breathing should be a not just daily practice, but dozens of times a day. I try to monitor my breathing as much as possible. I've turned it into a pretty good habit so that when I realize my breathing is shallow, and I know that that's starting to lead to carbon dioxide building up. I'm not getting enough oxygen. I'm not calm enough. And so multiple times a day, when I'm driving, when I'm walking, whatever I'm doing, I take time to check in. And I have it built into a habit, so I just notice it automatically. I check in to see how I'm feeling inside, if I'm tense, if I'm not breathing well enough, and then I take deep, calming breaths. My favorite one, now there's dozens of different breath exercises, so do not get hung up on the one that I'm about to do. You can YouTube it, you can find any meditation app, you can find tons of different ways to breathe. The one I like the best, I got from Andrew Huberman. Huberman podcast is really good. He's a neuroscientist, far smarter than me. I take what other people have figured out and I find a way to build it into my recovery. And so I use the physiological sigh. Physiological sigh is one of the simplest breathing exercises I can imagine, and I'll just show you what it looks like. All right. So you take an inhale almost all the way to the top, and then you go that little extra bit just to push that last little bit of air in your lungs. You go, and then you exhale. And I don't quite remember the science of it. Just Google Andrew Huberman if you want to know. But it has something to do with just offloading a bunch of carbon dioxide all at once, and that helps your body achieve a calming state. I do 2 or 3 of those several times an hour. And this helps me to take my anxiety, my stress level from here down to a nice, smooth baseline. and it just helps me to stay regulated. All right, so once again, physiological sigh. I'll do one more so you can see it. Okay, that's how I deal with hyperregulation. Regulation of my body above baseline. So that's stress. What about depression? Because I had the lovely experience of going through anxiety and depression. So my baseline was hyper elevated and then hypo elevated. So what I do for combating depression is I do a different kind of breathing, Wim Hof. So I'm not very good at it. I'm by no means an expert. Again, just look at a YouTube video. But what you're doing is you're taking deep, fast breaths to get as much oxygen in you as possible. So if I'm hyper elevated, I do calming breathing to bring myself back down to a smooth baseline. If I'm hypo-regulated, if I'm feeling down, low energy, lethargic, depressed, I'll do this kind of breathing to bring myself up, to energize myself. And this one always looks silly, so I don't recommend doing it in public unless you just don't care, but this is what it looks like. Fast, deep breathing, okay? I have the car parked right now. Do not do this when you're driving, because as soon as I stop, I get a little bit lightheaded. Okay, it's like a head rush. It's like standing up off the couch too quickly and you get a little dizzy. Yeah, I've just uploaded a ton of oxygen into my body, and now I get this little bit of a tingle going on. I feel a tingle in my fingers, in my knees. I can feel it in my chest, in my head. It's just a little bit energizing, all right? It's not as good as a cup of coffee, but again, notice your baseline, and now you have two ways to respond accordingly. If you're too stressed, physiological sigh. Offload that carbon dioxide, calm yourself down. If you're feeling too low, breathe a little heavy, get some oxygen in you, energize yourself, bring yourself up. We don't have the benefit of having an autonomic nervous system that functions all by itself, keeping us right in the middle where we need to be. So we have to recognize when we're feeling off and respond with breathing exercises that put us where we want to be. That's it. Do it. Try it out. Enjoy.